Good evening, tubers. Madame Roy back once again. Boy, take a look. Picked a good time to break out. You see that right there? Yep, that's a pimple. Though I'll tell you, with the heat that we've had recently, I am not surprised that I'm breaking out, but I digress on that point. How is everybody doing tonight? Let's see. As soon as I started talking about pimples, I went down to 4 people. Oh, up to 7 now. William McCullough said, let me guess, you're moving, having the surgery, and getting married. No, no, and HE double hockey sticks no to that last one. And I won the lottery. Yeah, maybe. No, not me. I'm not that lucky. I think you guys got the wrong idea. It's not any like major life news or anything like that. I just want to talk a little bit about things that have happened in the past few weeks and the way I feel about the future in general. Nothing major is happening at the moment, unless you consider me looking for another vehicle major. Eric Brunhammer said, maybe going back and forth between 2 computers during this stream. That's fine. Yeah, as long as you come back. So, basically, what I want to talk a little bit about is not just the future of this channel, but my future in general. And you guys mostly know by now that my dad was in the hospital last week. He had that AFib. It was really scary. I'll be honest with you. Mom and I were really upset. You know, we were kind of holding close to each other, praying that he'd make it through. And the good Lord did. He did have to have a heart procedure, but it wasn't anything major. It was like a shock treatment that they do to the heart to shock it back into rhythm, and that seems to have fixed the problem. So thank you guys out there for those of you that were praying. I just been feeling kind of lately, if you know what I mean. You know, with that happening, you know, some things in my personal life not going the way that I was hoping. I kind of had to, sometimes you just have to take stock and revisit and be blessed with the things that you do have. You know, I have a roof over my head, parents that love me. You know, I have a steady income. You know, I have my passions and my hobbies. And we all have to look at that sometimes. You know, we always think the grass is greener on the other side. Oh, their neighbor, Mr. Jones or Mrs. Jane, has it so much better than we do because they have the fancy car or the fancy house and they have the 2.5 children. But looks can be deceiving. Believe it or not, those people that you think have it so great usually don't, because with the house, the fancy car, and the 2.5 kids comes a lot of debt most of the time. So we got to think of it in the way that, you know, we got to be happy with what we have. And if the good Lord wants us to have more, then he'll give us more, or even better still, he'll give us the opportunity to get more or to elevate ourselves. And I'm not just talking about stuff, physical assets. Yeah, stuff is great. I have a lot of stuff that I like, you know, but that's not what's most important in life. What's most important in life is family, friends, and helping people. And you know what? That's something that as a society, I think we've actually forgotten a lot about. You know, when they talk about, you know, Christmas time, it's better to give than to receive. That's still true. And it's just something that was on my heart to share with you guys. And we're not going to make a whole hour out of it, but just remember that somebody out there always has it worse than you do. And all the problems that you have, people have had them before and they've been able to deal with them. I like that, hired gun. There's more BS fertilizing that other grass. It's so true. Mike Paradin's here. Mark Covington. Brad Smith is here. Just waiting a few. We got 8 watchers. Oh, One thing I want to show you after I finish this live stream, I'm going to go old school tonight. I found this at the thrift store probably about 3 or 4 months ago, and I still haven't had a chance to watch it. Those of you that are my British subscribers probably are very familiar with this show. Anybody out there, even if you're not British, you might have seen it before. Keeping Up Appearances. And this is the Sea Fever. This has actually got 2 of my favorite episodes. When Hyacinth and her husband Richard go on the QE2 for a holiday, and then Hyacinth tees off when she goes golfing. I'm actually surprised they didn't have the one where she takes her own yacht out for a like a seaside picnic, but I don't know. I guess they didn't have the rights to it or something. Classic British comedy series from the early 90s, and they're both still around, believe it or not. I love British comedies. Some of my favorite sitcoms are British. Keeping Up Appearances, Are You Being Served, Waiting for God. So this is going to be a treat for me later. And when I was pulling the tape out, I actually found this, The Many Faces of the BBC. Isn't that cool? I don't know when this was actually from. Let me see, 1998. So this was at the tail end of VHS. And yes, this is a VHS tape. Pulling off my little thing there. Oh, I'm not gaining weight, but I tell you, my pants feel like they're fitting tighter. Let me loosen this up a little bit. Probably all that water weight, being that I was bike riding today. I actually drank a lot of water, and I actually still have some of my Gatorade, because when you sweat a lot, and I actually got a lot of flack from Militant Vegan last time about suggesting that you drink Gatorade over water. Well, if you're here, the reason I say that is there are times, like when it's really hot out and you're sweating buckets, that not only does your water level dip low, your sodium level dips low, because you're actually sweating out all that salt. And you need something that has some sodium and electrolytes in it. And that's why I recommend Gatorade on those really hot days. Stephen Barber said, I went out on my first date. It was awesome. Nice. I'm glad to hear that. I know a lot of us don't really date, at least that view this channel. I actually have. In the past, I've had a couple of girlfriends. Nothing major has worked out, unfortunately. But you know what? That's okay. It'll happen in good time. Excuse me. I always forget to silence the phone. I should just keep the ringer off, honestly. William McCullough said, you're losing a lot of minerals and vitamins. That is true. Whenever you sweat, you're losing a lot of everything. You're losing your electrolytes, you're losing your sodium, and like you said, minerals. Vitamins, yes and no. Your body, our human body, is actually very good at absorbing the vitamins that it needs. So generally, those will get absorbed by the body before you sweat them out. But again, you have to be very careful on these super hot days. Like today, it got into the high 80s, low 90s. The humidity wasn't too bad. It was in the 75, 80% range. But when it's that hot out, you just got to be really careful, because true story, my dad has had heat stroke twice in his life, and I got it once, and it is not fun. The way you know you have heat stroke, believe it or not, is if you're outside and you stop sweating on a real hot day, you stop sweating because you have no more water to give. And that's when you're in trouble. That means you need to immediately stop what you're doing, go find some water or something to hydrate yourself, because that's when you're in real trouble. And you can pass out. You can actually die, believe it or not, from heat strokes. You got to be very, very careful this time of year. Cameron Cloud, hey guys, what have I missed? Sorry I was late. It's Friday here in New Zealand. Oh, that's right. You guys are about a day ahead of us. Well, what, 14, 15 hours? Not too much. We're just chatting. Let me see if I missed anybody here. Chip Boulay, hey Matt, long time no see. Glad to be back here. By the way, nice Tony Stewart shirt. Oh, thanks, buddy. I was always a Dale Earnhardt, Dale Jarrett fan myself, and a Carl Edwards before he retired. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I don't follow it that much, but I really like these shirts, and I got this from local garage sale, and it is in really good shape. And it's a cool shirt. I'll be honest with you. I get a lot of remarks when I wear it. And the fact that I'm wearing a large shirt right now means I have a lot more interesting garage sale finds as it pertains to clothes. You know, shirts, pants, sweatshirts, jeans, all that stuff I can find very easily in the large size now. Chipotle says, and yes, I agree. I had a heat stroke once at football practice in high school, and they're very serious and need to be taken seriously. Yeah, it can happen anywhere, even indoors. I've had people, believe it or not, that were inside during the summer and they didn't have air conditioning or didn't have adequate air conditioning. I knew a few people that still got heat stroke that way. My dad actually, one of his heat stroke episodes came when he was working as a car mechanic in a dealership because, believe it or not, in the service bays in most dealerships, they do not have air conditioning. And I can kind of get that because if you've ever been inside of the service bay of a dealership, you see how big it is in there. You can imagine how expensive it would be to air condition that. I can't even imagine. It would probably run into the thousands, maybe tens of thousands a month. And yes, they do make a lot of money, but that would definitely eat into their profit. Mark Cummings says, hey, Matt, about Gatorade or water do you recommend we drink on a really hot day like we're having now? I would recommend Gatorade. And once again, they make a Gatorade for everybody. Diabetics, stick with the G0. If you don't have problems with your blood sugar, then yeah, you can go with like the regular Gatorade, or the G2, which has like half the sugar of regular Gatorade. But on really hot days, you really need something like that. Now, on a regular summer day, if it's in the 80s, high 70s, yeah, water's fine. Oh, you got an itch or something there. I'm not picking my nose, I promise. I need to shave again. I just noticed that. Yeah, Chet Belay. I don't find the taste that awkward, that off-putting, the G0, because it has the sucralose. And you guys got to remember, I was technically diabetic. So for many years before I lost the weight, I had to watch my sugar intake. So I kind of got used to the artificial sweeteners. Now, I stay away from NutraSweet and saccharin because they're really hard on the body. But what they use in G0 is, hang on a second, is sucralose, which is basically Splenda. And that's much better for your body because it's really just one side of the sugar. You have the dextrose and the sucrose. They remove the dextrose and they leave the sucrose in. So it's much better for you. Cameron Cloud said, what type of motorsport do you like, Matt? I'm really not into it that much. Honestly, I ride my bikes. I have a Raleigh SC40 bike that I think you guys have seen in the vlogs before. And then I just picked up from our neighbor down the road. She was throwing it away, a Mongoose Dynametric, a vintage 1980s Mongoose Dynametric bike with the thinner tires. They're not the real thin tires. They're kind of like halfway. They're the Chenshin tires, I think they're called. And I switch off between the two bikes. Now, the Mongoose, the vintage Mongoose bike is really good for the road because the thinner tires and the fact that it has 32 speeds on it means I can get up some serious speed. But the Raleigh SC40 is a more comfortable bike. That's a bike that I don't mind riding for maybe an hour or two at once, whereas the Mongoose has that bike, that racing bike stance where you're kind of hunched over with your arms down like this, and any more than like half an hour, maybe 45 minutes on that bike, my shoulders and my arms start really hurting me. So each bike is good for a different purpose, let's say. Cameron Cloud said, you would love New Zealand. The government has spent millions setting up bike tracks through the cities and out there, all the forests and lakes. I'm sure I would. And honestly, they really need to start putting more effort into the rail to trail projects here in the United States and even in our area, because it's been about 3 years since they did the trail over in Suffolk, and they have not expanded it. Now they're supposed to do so next year. They're supposed to have the next 2 legs completed. We'll have to see if that comes to fruition. I have my doubts. Eric said, Eric Brunhammer, those Dell Latitude D630s are kicking my arse getting Linux on them. Yeah, I was never a big fan of that model. They tended to suffer from motherboard failures. More specifically, I think it was the wireless card and the RAM slots used to fail on those a lot. Chipole said, I used to ride a Diamondback with my pegs and all. Wow, that takes me back. A bike built for 2, essentially. Yeah, if I really start getting serious, I'll probably invest in something like a Diamondback, or a Rock is another brand that's very popular in our area, the very high-end bikes. Now, my Raleigh SC40 is still technically considered a high-end bike. It was probably $300 or $400, maybe $450 when it was new. It has the shocks. It has the shocks in the front, the shocks in the back, right under the seat, so it takes the bumps really nice. It's a solid aluminum frame, but it does not have disc brakes. It just has the standard I don't know what you call them, frame brakes, where the brake pad actually just hits the frame to stop. So not bad in my area because we don't actually have any geographic hills in this area, so it actually works around here. But if I was to ride bikes seriously, like in upstate New York, like where my uncle lives in the Binghamton area, where there are tons of hills, that's a different story. I would definitely want to get a bike that had disc brakes. Yes, William. Basically, the trail is not going to extend from out towards Suffolk to Chesapeake and into Portsmouth. So, yeah, you would literally have to get off the trail at Pewsville Road and then ride onto Taylor and pick it up again there. So on the over the highway overpass, yeah. They're not going to be doing anything there. They can't, because honestly, they can't buy the land is what's happening. Eric Brunhammer says, I used to do BMX back in the day. I spent more on the STA standard BMX bike back in the day than I did on some of the cars I've owned. You want to know something funny? I have never owned a BMX bike. My friends used to have them when we lived in New York. They used to do tricks on. They had the bars in the back to where you could stand up and kind of make the bike dance. They had the extension bars in the front, and even some even had them on the pedals as well. We were we did not have a lot of money back then, and BMX bikes were really expensive. The nicest bike I ever owned back then was a cheap Huffy, like a 24-inch Huffy. Yeah, it is what it is. And now at my age, I don't see myself getting into true BMX biking. Probably just going to stick with the mountain bikes and maybe get a nice racing road bike if I can find one at a decent price. Update on the local mall. How are the shops? Cameron Cloud asks. You're referring to Chesapeake Square. It's doing okay. Nothing much has changed. I do want to film an update video in there for you guys. The only problem is I'll have to do it discreetly because security is really tight in that mall. And when it comes to filming, they really don't allow it. Even if you ask first, a lot of times they'll just say no. So what I'll probably have to do is invest in some video or video glasses. It's probably about the only way I'm going to get any footage in that mall. Chepoulet said, nowadays when I ride, I feel that the only problem I have is my feet begin to ache and hurt on the arches. Do you have any recommendations for footwear to help with this? Yeah, it depends. If you're flat-footed like I am, then you need to get yourself some good insoles. And it's a shame because the best insoles I've ever bought were from Payless Shoe Source. And of course, they're all going out of business now. Let me see if I can look that up real quick. Above that, you also want to get yourself a bike that has a lot of speeds because you can actually adjust the speeds for the inclines, basically the different elevations, and that'll minimize the stress on your feet as well. Okay, here they are. They're called Super Memory Foam Orthotic Arch Insert Insole Cushion Sport Support Shoe Pads RO. I'm not saying that twice. But what I will do, share that link with you. There you go. And those are the ones that I own, and they've actually done really well for me. Got 14 watchers and 13 likes. Thank you guys so much. I figured we probably wouldn't get a lot of viewers tonight, but I at least wanted to get this information out there. And honestly, I really enjoy doing these live streams. You guys seem to like them, and it saves me time editing videos. But I promise I will be doing another vlog-style video shortly. Yeah, I'd say that was a tongue twister. Now, I want to give you guys an update on the vehicle situation because a lot of you have been asking me about the 2010 Chrysler Town & Country, what I plan on doing. As it sits right now, there is a strong possibility that my dad may be purchasing that van from me. And if that happens, then I am going to be buying another vehicle. I'm not exactly sure what it's going to be at this point. I'm looking at Ford Expeditions, Ford Explorers, and Chevy Tahoes are the favorites at this point. I'm going to be staying away from Chrysler vehicles mainly because they just have too many reliability problems. Now, I want to tell you guys, there are a lot of options for looking for used vehicles now. And a lot of people know the typical ones, Auto Trader, Craigslist, things like that. But I've actually had a lot of good luck on the Facebook virtual marketplace. And if you guys don't know what that is, on Facebook, there's a section called the Marketplace. It's basically like Craigslist on steroids. And you have to join groups in your area. Like I'm a member of, I want to say it's like 40 or 50 different groups in my area. And you can search for almost anything on there. Like they have vehicles, electronics, home and garden. People in my area, at least, will actually advertise plants for sale, believe it or not. And you can advertise things too. It's basically just like Craigslist. And what's nice about it is people can, unlike Craigslist, people can actually rate you. They can rate how you are, like if you're selling something, like they do with Offer Up and Let Go. And you can actually view other people's ratings as well. So if you get a chance, check it out. It's the Facebook virtual marketplace. And if you live in the United States, I know you have it. I don't know about outside of the US, but I'm sure they have something similar to it. Eric Brunhammer says, I don't care for the Explorers. U-Haul will not rent trailers to Ford Explorers older than 2010. Yeah, I heard that. I think that's BS, because I know a lot of people that have Ford Explorers, the Mercury Mountaineers, which are the Mercury versions of that are older than 2010. My neighbor has a 98 or 97. And that thing's got like 250,000 miles on it. And that thing's rock solid, reliable. So, I mean, U-Haul can do whatever they want. I mean, they're a private business. They don't want to rent to people who have a certain vehicle. I mean, that's kind of ridiculous in my opinion. But heck, if they want to do that, that's their prerogative. Camera Cloud goes, on the 8th day, God created Chevy. On the 9th, he traded in for a Ford. Yeah. Yeah, and the reason he's saying that is it's generally known that Chevys are not as durable as Fords when it comes to their trucks and SUVs. That's not saying they're not good. Don't hate on me here, guys. I like Chevys to a point. I like Suburbans. I like the Tahoes. But when it comes to a work vehicle, the Fords will generally hold up better than the Chevys. Just saying. Just saying. Like, I'm actually looking here. Some people are really ridiculous with their prices. Like, somebody had listed a 1997 Dodge Ram. It was in all right condition, good for its age, but they wanted $7,500. I'm sorry, in no way is a 1997 Dodge Ram pickup truck worth $7,500. It just isn't. So you kind of got to weed out the vehicles that are overpriced. And the best way to do that, I found, KBB, Kelley Blue Book, and NADA, the National Auto Database Association, something like that. But there are a lot of free tools out there that you can use to figure out what a fair price is for a certain vehicle. And then you got to be smart about it too. I've always said that if you're trying to sell a vehicle and I'm the interested party, you don't want me to be there, because I will critique that vehicle. I will take it for a test drive. I will test everything, the power windows, the air conditioning. I will look for lights on the dash. I will go underneath it and look for rust. And I suggest, if you're out there looking to buy a vehicle, that you do the same thing. You got to remember, you are the buyer. They always say buyer beware. And in my case, most of the people I bought vehicles from probably hated me at the end of the process. But you know what? I don't care, because at that point, I know I got a good vehicle. So you've got to be diligent when buying used vehicles. It's not like you're out there buying a used computer. You still want to be careful, but for the most part, maybe you're spending $200-300. And yeah, if you buy a used computer for a couple $100 that lasts you a year or two, then yeah, you've gotten your money out of it. But if you're buying a used vehicle, a used automobile, truck, car from a private seller, chances are you're spending $4, $5, $6, maybe $7,000. And you want to make sure that you're not buying a piece of junk, because chances are, well, if it's from a private person, you are not getting any kind of warranty on it, unless the vehicle is warranted by the manufacturer. So just be very careful. And I am very, very, very careful when I buy used vehicles. Get a Nissan Cube. Oh, good vehicles. I just don't like the way they look personally. And I am sticking with an American-made vehicle. It's going to be a Ford or a Chevy. The only reason I'm doing that is because around here, I can get it fixed for cheap. Whereas if it's a foreign vehicle, I'll have to pay a lot more to get it repaired when it does break down. And yes, inevitably it will. Oh, I think it was William McCullough that turned me on to a vehicle they were selling locally. It wound up being a 2008 Dodge Ram 1500 four door, so it would be an extended cab, but they wanted too much money for it and it wasn't in good shape. I think they were asking like 8,500 for it. Probably would have taken 7,500, they said, but it had about 170,000, 170K on it, and the paint was all faded. And I was like, no, that is definitely not for me. I remember the Volkswagen Rabbit. Lived in an apartment for a while, and one of our neighbors had one, the diesel version. I can remember him out on the cold winter mornings trying to get it started, and it took like 3 minutes to get those started because I know they didn't have engine block heaters. I want to say they didn't even have glow plugs either. So you had to just keep cranking it and cranking it and cranking it to build up heat for the diesel to combust. Because you got to remember, diesel engines don't have spark plugs. The only way a diesel engine is going to achieve combustion is by pressure. Basically, the slapping of the pistons finally creates the explosion. Do I like, Chris Garrett says, do you like your dad's Dodge Ram? It's a nice truck. Believe me, it's really comfortable. The only issue I have with it is the size. It's huge. Like if mom and I want to take that to a state park or a bike trail, most of the time I can't because it's just too big. It won't fit in. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Whew. It won't fit in the parking lot. So that's why I'm trying to get something that's a little more reasonable. But as for reliability, yeah, they're okay. His is an '06, so that's before they all went to you know what in a handbasket. Eric Brunhammer says, I respect your decision. I'm not trying to sway you, but a Toyota Highlander would be an amazing car for you, though. Eric, do you know the definition of irony? I'm sure you do. I was riding my bike in one of the neighborhoods close to where I live, and wouldn't you know, I was actually scouting for vehicles that people were selling, and wouldn't you know, one of the vehicles was a Highlander. I think it was a 2008 Toyota Highlander, had like 202,000 miles on it, and they were asking $5,700 for it, and they brought it down to 4,800, and it was a nice vehicle. But the mileage was too high and the price was too high. And I'm sure there's a person out there that's willing to pay that much for that vehicle, but that person's not me. With that kind of mileage, I think they're going to be hard pressed to get any more than 3,000, maybe 3,500. Even if it is all highway miles, that's still a very high mileage vehicle. Chip Boulay asks, any suggestions on a smaller size truck with nice size bed and cab size that seats four? You have a few options. Probably the best one would be the Dodge Dakota four door. Again, I know I'm not a big Chrysler fan, but they are good for a small truck. I don't think the Toyota Tacomas came in four doors that I'm aware of. The Tundras do, but that's a really big vehicle. Okay, I guess I'm wrong. Eric said Toyota Tacoma. Cough, cough. Yeah, that's probably your only other bet because the only other vehicle I can think of is the Chevy Colorado. And I'm going to look up right now if that ever came in a four door. Yeah, I guess it did. So yeah, in my recommendation, Chevy Colorado or the Dodge Dakota or the Toyota Tacoma. Yeah, not the Tundra. Definitely not the Tundra. The older S10s, like the S10 Blazers. Believe it or not, you can find a lot of those for sale in our area, but they are usually beat to you know what. I'm telling you, for whatever reason, people just did not treat those well. Chet, oh, Chris Garrett said, I drove my mother's old Volkswagen Beetle. Not old one. It was a 99 model. We got it right off the truck new. Just came from port. Wow. Yeah, that was the second year I think they made the new models. I think 98 was the official first one. They were decent. They didn't age well, all of them. I know that the diesel ones where they were rare, but they actually had a diesel version of that. They would go forever. I actually had a customer that came bought a computer from me, had a '01 Beetle that was a diesel, and I offered to buy it from her right off, but she's like, no, never going to sell that thing. Dan T said his neighbor had one of those rabbits, and every morning cranking, it was like, what was it? And like for 2 or 3 minutes at least, no lying. I was shocked the battery held up that long. And then finally it would start for like 10 or 20 seconds. Then it would stall, and then it'd be another for about another minute. Then it would start. And if he was lucky, that would be all she wrote. He could be on his way. But most of the time, if it was really cold, you'd have it run for another 30 seconds or so. It would stall, and then another like minute or two of cranking. I would never recommend those for anybody who isn't in a tropical climate. Tropical being Florida or south. Yeah, Chet. Colorado for the price, Toyota Tacoma for the reliability. And I'm not saying that Chevy isn't reliable, because it is, but the build quality is definitely better on the Toyota. And if my dad was here, he'd probably hit me over the head for saying that, but that's just what I believe. Mark Covington really wants me to get an HHR. I'm looking at a few. They're a little out of my price range right now. It's all going to depend on if Dad sells one of his vehicles and buys my van. If that happens, then I'll have more money to play around with. We'll just have to see. The Beetles were very rare, though. The diesel engine was not a popular option for obvious reasons. Number one being the smell. What do you got here? 19 watchers and 17 likes. That's weird. About around the 30-minute mark, I tend to get the most watchers. And I'm starting this at 8 tonight mainly for Mark Covington, because he said he can't get to his computer until 8. So I'm going to try to do that as much as possible. But I am going to be varying the times that I start the live streams. Caleb Nestor, Jeep Cherokee with the 4.0. Great engine, horrible on gas. They were lucky to get, I think it was, let me look this up. I don't want to put the wrong statistics out for you guys. Fuel economy. Come on. It's got to be here somewhere. Okay. It's not much, and I remember this. Those engines average, with the fuel-injected model, 16 miles per gallon highway and 13 miles per gallon city. So, yeah, they were not great on fuel, but they were very reliable. I'll have to give them that. But once again, I am definitely sticking with a Ford or a Chevy. I'm not going Chrysler, unless they have a really good deal that I can't resist on something like a Dodge. Oh, my mind just went blank. Not Dakota. I hate that. I'm telling you, I need some ginkgo biloba. Help me out here, guys. Dodge, Dakota, Dodge. What's the other one? Somebody will tell me. But anyway, mainly going to be sticking with Ford and Chevy. Got a $2 super chat from Mark Covington and Cameron Cloud. Thank you so much. And that'll definitely go to improve the channel. Durango. Dodge Durango. That's the one I couldn't think of. Okay. Caleb says I'm wrong. He said 20 miles per gallon on his. I've never owned one, so I'm gonna have to go with what you say here. But from the research I've done and other people I've talked to that have owned them in things like Jeep Cherokees, Jeep Grand Cherokees, they tell me around town they're lucky to average any higher than 13 or 14 and about maybe 17 or 18 on the highway. Eric says the Durangos with the 5.2 and the 5.9 were pretty reliable. I am not totally ruling out a Durango, but the likelihood of me getting one is pretty remote. I have been burned with Chrysler vehicles, you guys know, with that PT Cruiser in the past, so I'm very reluctant to go that route. And just to give you an example here, let me show you something that I would consider. Yeah, that's too rough. Yeah, I would consider going down to Georgia again when I have some extra time and extra money, which is all in short supply, unfortunately. Like something like this would be nice. This guy's selling a 93 Chevy pickup 1500, 78,000 original miles for 2,500. But when you get into an older vehicle like that, they can be rough. And this one is still in a little rough condition. Plus, it's a stripped down model. It's got crank windows, no power locks. Wow. Though I do like that it's a 5-speed manual. That would be a plus. They're always fun to drive. Anything with a manual transmission. And yes, I can drive a stick shift. I've owned technically I've owned one stick shift in my life, and that was my first PT Cruiser. But we had a 1989 Ford Tempo 4-door that was a stick shift, and that was actually really fun to drive. Oh, I need to take another sip. My mouth is dry. What are your thoughts on the new Tesla UTE coming out? Honestly, I haven't really followed up with Teslas much. All I know is they're a company that's always on the verge of bankruptcy. They have not yet been profitable, and people that have pre-ordered the new Teslas are angry because the delivery date keeps getting pushed back, and they're not even sure they have enough money now to make all the Teslas that people have ordered and paid for already. So I wouldn't look too favorably on them. They're good vehicles. I mean, they're fun to drive. If you're a wealthy tycoon, then yeah, I would probably buy one, but not in my situation for sure. Oh, okay, Eric. Yeah, I do. I remember your '89 Chevy, the white one. I did not know that that was a 5-speed though. I honestly didn't know that. I only ever saw it from the outside. I think you did a cold start once, but I never saw the interior, so I didn't know that was a 5-speed. Brad Smith, do you have any fireworks near? I hope you have a good this year and a fun 4th of July. Um, we can. I mean, they're not illegal in Virginia, but in my city there is a bylaw against them. Now, do they enforce it? Not much, because on every 4th of July, I hear fireworks going off everywhere. I personally don't set them off because we have a lot of trees in our backyard and just wouldn't be safe. All right, tubers, I'm ending this here. I am losing my voice. I have some other things I have to do tonight. Thank you guys so much for attending the live stream. I will keep you updated. Next thing you guys see will probably be a regular vlog, not a actual live stream. So please continue to like and subscribe. And as always, have a blessed day, everybody.